Am I the asshole for making my chronically late friend miss her seminar? My friend, 25F, is constantly late for everything. Be it work-related or fun activities, she will always be at least 15–20 minutes late. She does not have a car, and so oftentimes I, 25M, will pick her up from her house. I work at a university and she is a PhD student there, and her place is along the way for me. Last time I offered her a ride to work, she ended up being 20 minutes late after I've already arrived at her place. Because of that, I ended up being late for work. She is always very apologetic about her lateness, but never changes. This week she was supposed to give a seminar at the university, which is a crucial part of her PhD program. She asked me if I could give her a ride to work that day. I told her sure, but that I was picking her up at 8 a.m. and she must be there exactly at 8 a.m., and not a minute later. She chuckled, but I told her I wasn't joking, and she promised that she will be there. The morning of her seminar, I drove to her place and got there at 7:55, and texted her that I was here, and she told me she would be out in just a minute. At 8 o'clock, there was no indication that she would come out, and she didn't text anything, so at 8:01, I drove off. At around 8:20, she called me asking me where I was. I told her I was at work and that I wasn't joking when I told her that she had to be ready right that minute. She started screaming and crying over the phone, and told me that she was having a hard time that morning, couldn't be ready right at 8 a.m. She then begged me to come back to pick up her, as her seminar is at 9 a.m. and she needed to be at the school before then. I could have done it quick enough to pick her up and drop her off without affecting my work, but I decided I didn't want to do that, and told her that I won't. She was crying and hyperventilating at that point and said she'd promised to never be late for anything else again, and re-emphasized that this seminar was crucial for her PhD and that she absolutely cannot miss it without severe consequence. I responded, "Oh well," and hung up. I then went about my day at work normally. I feel like could have went back and picked her up in this scenario since it wouldn't have been detrimental to me, and at the same time this was something very important for her. On the other hand, I feel like this should be a wake-up call for her chronic lateness. Not the asshole. You warned her. She also had 40 minutes to make other arrangements even after all her procrastination. Could you have been kinder? Yes. Could you have reminded her about your time restrictions? Yes. Could you have given her a final notice with an "I'm going to drive away at 8 o'clock"? Yes. Is it rude as fuck to be continuously late? Hell yes. Is she an adult? Yes. Is it your problem to manage her time? No. Still not the asshole. When you said you left at 8:01 I was thinking aw. But when she didn't call you until 8:20 I laughed and thought, oh no, definitely not the asshole. Your friend needs to learn that punctuality in the professional world is important. Also, her chronic lateness should not be affecting you getting to work on time. Not the asshole. Why didn't she just call an Uber or taxi? If it was that important, she had other options available to her. Am I the asshole for reporting a coworker to HR and getting her transferred to another team? I, 26F, am Muslim and Moroccan. But it isn't obviously Muslim, I guess? I don't wear hijab. First of all, my first name is a name that is common in Western countries too. Think Sarah, Lena, Nadia, Miriam. My last name, I came to know, is actually a Jewish name. I have a Jewish ancestor, but it is very common in my country. So just by name you would think I am not Moroccan. Then since I am Amazigh, Moroccan natives, I am very light-skinned, with light hair and eyes. Not what you would think when you hear African. I came to the US when I was 14, so I don't have an accent. During the pandemic, specifically August 2020, I was hired by a company to work remotely 100% of the time. It was only on September 1st that I started going to the office. I have a coworker. Let's call her LL, and I have been sort of friends. We both belong to the same team, and even while working remotely we used to have friendly chats sometimes. When we started working on site, she was so happy to have a friend to chat with. The first day she wanted to share her lunch. I declined because she wasn't able to tell me for sure if that pan she cooked the chicken in was used to cook pork before. So she said, "So you follow kosher, the letter huh?" And I replied, "Actually it's halal for me." She was obviously confused. Then when she grasped the situation, she became cold on the spot. I am sad to say this, but I am used to that reaction. In my mind all I heard was, "Another one bites the dust," and moved on with my life. But she started acting very hostile towards me. For example, if she sees that I am in hearing distance she would make blatantly Islamophobic comments. She follows me around the office. When other coworkers ask me out for a coffee with them, she would loudly say she won't be coming with us, because she is going, etc. It was making me and everyone else very uncomfortable. The last straw was Thursday. I was going for a coffee run, we take turns, and didn't want to take my bag with me. It was a big tote bag. Well, she threw a fit, said that either I take my bag or she will call for security and ask them to go through it. When I said what she meant by that, she told me God knows what I have in it. My people are not exactly known for harmless bags. Everyone was shocked. They said that she went too far. I just went to HR directly and reported her. A couple coworkers did too. She was called in Friday, then I did too, and I said that I can no longer work in the same space as her. Today I received an email that she will be transferred to another department. And I felt relieved. But my mom said that I know better than to do that I should have dealt with it without impacting her livelihood. So am I the asshole? Not the asshole at all. You didn't affect her livelihood. Her racist and Islamophobic behavior affected her livelihood. They should have actually fired her. NTA 100% not the asshole. What a complete and utter womble of a person. Well done to you for not reacting, cuz I think I'd have reacted physically to that. Not the asshole. Wow, I was actually shocked about what she said about the bag thing. People actually think that, huh? Damn. Not the asshole, you didn't do anything to affect her livelihood, her actions did that. Whether you would have reported her or not, it's more than obvious that her treatment towards you was also affecting your other coworkers, who also reported her. All of this was caused by her bigotry. Not the asshole, you're not responsible for her actions impacting her livelihood. I'd ask your mother what she would have done, as going to HR is the only sensible option. Am I the asshole for calling a guy a Nepo hire after he said I'm a diversity hire? So I, 22F, recently started working a prestigious company that is unfortunately very male-dominated. On my team, for example, I'm the only woman. There's Asian guys, and another black guy, but it's mostly white dudes. And this is actually one of the more diverse teams. As a woman of color, it's been a challenging and oftentimes isolating experience. Anyway, one of my coworkers, M, is the nephew of the CFO, and we started our roles at the same time. He's a white guy, an entitled douchebag and incompetent emo. For whatever reason he has disliked me from the very start, often trying to start arguments, being overly competitive, etc. It was difficult dealing with this because I didn't want to lose my job. Anyway, last month an incident occurred where my boss chose me over M to accompany him to an industry event. This really upset M, who assumed he'd be invited. He's been acting like a bigger ass ever since. This all came to a head when I got lunch with my female colleague from another department. M insisted on joining us. He started questioning me about the event, but I wasn't interested in discussing that. Then he accused me of manipulating people to get ahead, ridiculous, and that our boss obviously wants to show off his exotic diversity hire. FYI, I'm multiracial and come from a poor, dysfunctional background. M joked that I tick a lot of boxes. We argued back and forth, with him accusing me of having it easy, again ridiculous, till he once again said that I'm an obvious diversity hire, bimbo. I was extremely pissed and told him that he's a privileged nepotism baby who literally gets things handed over to him. I said that he'll forever bask in mediocrity, blissfully unaware of how utterly incompetent he truly is. I also told him that nobody will ever say that to his face, so he should be happy I'm doing him a favor. I said this knowing full well that I'd lose my job in the worst case scenario. Our colleague gasped immediately and told me to apologize to M, who looked taken aback and confused more than anything. However, I didn't apologize and just left. Later on, M told me that what I said was fucked up and crossed the line. He claimed that he didn't insult me and that I took it way too far. Then he said that I'm lucky that he's choosing not to report this. Am I the asshole in this situation? Then he said that I'm lucky that he's choosing not to report this. He's too embarrassed to report this, because what you said is true. I'm curious. Did your coworker also gasp at the racist and misogynistic things this guy said and demand he apologize to you? If not, why not? Not the asshole and wish I'd been a fly on the wall to see Nepo dude's smug and entitled demeanor crumble. Not the asshole. But move now. Get your butt to HR and take control of this situation. Also take responsibility for what you said. Get everything out in the open and on the record. Seriously, move now on this. So your coworker from the other department doesn't say anything while he is calling you a bimbo. But once you dish it back you are the one in the wrong. Not the asshole. It's so sad in society POC, females, minorities have to accept this behavior, yet if they dish it back to a white man it's the end of the world. Am I the asshole for refusing to get rid of poison ivy at the edge of my yard? A family with young children recently moved into the house next door. The border between our yards, mostly on my side, has a ton of poison ivy. I'm extremely sensitive to it, so I haven't tried to control it except when it starts to grow too much into my yard. Even when I do remove it, I have to suit up and wash everything thoroughly and I still somehow end up with a rash. One of the parents came to my door last week to ask me to remove the poison ivy because their kids have been getting rashes when they play in that part of the yard. I said that I couldn't do that because of my sensitivity, but that they could just get it removed on their side and as long as their kids stayed in their own yard it wouldn't be an issue. They said that even if they did that it would grow back into their yard from my side and that I could pay a company to remove it if I wouldn't do it myself. I said that I would only agree to that if they paid for all of it. They refused and said they would be looking into local laws about nuisance plants. We're not on speaking terms anymore. Am I really the asshole here? It's their problem, so why should I have to pay for it? They could just teach their kids to avoid poison ivy like I do. I could understand it if I had planted it intentionally. But poison ivy is a native plant that was here before I was and it's an important food source for bees and birds. Quite frankly, I'm grateful for it because it's been keeping their loud kids away from my yard who were really annoying me whenever I was out in the garden. Too long did not read. My neighbors asked me to remove poison ivy on my property line because their kids were getting rashes and I refused because I didn't want to pay to remove it or risk removing it myself. It sounds like the poison ivy border between your properties is a nuisance to both you and your neighbors, and you are all making this situation needlessly complicated. Why not just hire a company to remove the plant and then split the cost? Edit. Oh, I see that the real reason you're letting this poisonous plant continue to grow and encroach on your neighbor's property is so that the kids will not be able to play in that section of their own yard. You are intentionally keeping a poisonous plant around that is harmful to both you and your neighbors so they can't access that part of their property. How completely selfish. You are the asshole. Info. Why aren't you two just paying half each? It's clearly a nuisance to both of you.